all about tracking macros. You may have heard this, and hopefully you watched our previous video in regards to what macronutrients actually are. But in terms of tracking macros, is it good? Is it bad? Should we do it? Why do we do it? Let me explain that to you. Now, some of you may have tracked macros before. I have, and I do. And when I work with my one-on-one clients, at some point in time, we will always track our macros for a certain amount of time, just because I believe it is a really, really important tool to understand how much you're eating, what kind of foods you're eating, what you need to eat in terms of reaching your goals, and what works for you as opposed to what doesn't work for you. So tracking macros is all about figuring out how many calories you need to be eating a day. It's probably more than 1,200. So if it's more than 1,200 calories, say for example, I can eat about 2,000 calories and maintain my weight. So say I'm eating 2,000 calories, that's calories, but the calories are broken up into macros. So remember our macros, protein, fat, and carbs, that's what makes up our calories. So I could eat 2,000 calories worth of carbs. Is it going to be good for my health? Probably not. Is it going to help me feel satisfied and full? Probably not. Is it sustainable for me in 3-5 years? Probably not. So I'm looking at how I can make my nutrition really sustainable for the long term, so I can maintain sustainable fat loss, so I can maintain my weight where I'm at, or I can really understand fueling my performance, to build muscle, to increase my energy, to go faster in a workout, to run for a longer amount of time, all that kind of stuff. So if I was to track my macros, for example, I need to make sure that I'm having enough protein according to my goals. And normally that's about 2 grams of protein per kilo of body weight. So I'm about 68 kilos, so I have about 2 times that, which is 135, 140 grams of protein. Then I have my fats, and I have about 1 gram of fat per kilo of body weight. So I have between 65 grams and 70 grams of fat a day, just to support my hormone function, because I know it's really, really important for hormones, cells, joints to be supported, especially as females. I've said this before, our reproductive system is working all the time. We have heaps of hormones going up and down. Every day is different, every month is different. So we need to support that as best we can. And then I fill the rest of my calories up with carbs, and that might be a little bit more if I'm doing a really hard training session. It might be less if I'm not really training or I'm not that active, but I still do have my carbs. Carbs are delicious, and they make up the bulk of our meals as well. So in terms of tracking your macros, yes, I believe everyone should do it, like I said, as a form of education. If you don't know, you don't know. So tracking macros, writing a food diary, taking photos of your food is all very, very similar, and it's a way to collect as much data and information as you need to be able to make some changes to work towards your goals. If we weren't tracking, how do we know what we need to change? That's essentially what it comes down to. It's like, if you're not tracking your weights in the gym, how do you know you're getting stronger? If you aren't, even looking at the petrol on the petrol tank, if that's not tracking and you don't know where that is, how do you know when you're going to run out of petrol? All this kind of stuff teaches us and allows us to find more information, to make changes, to then help us in the long term for our health, our body composition goals, our training, and all of that. So back to tracking macros. If you were to track macros, there is quite a few apps out there you can use. I like to use MyFitnessPal, and you can just start to scan labels or look in labels and understand kind of what food is made up of. So for example, most of you might not know how much protein is in one egg. So if we take one egg, it's about 50 to 60 grams. How much protein is in that? How much fat is in that? Is there any carbs in that? If we don't know these things, we don't know what we're eating and how much we need to eat or what we need to change. So what I would suggest is, if you're keen to learn, one, find a coach to help you, because they can give you a really, really easy habit-based approach or information collection, just so you can kind of figure out where you're at. 2, check out MyFitnessPal and just put some entries in and figure it out. So I know that, like, for 100 grams of raw chicken, there's about 20 grams of protein. In one egg, for example, there's about 8 grams of protein and 6 grams of fat. Okay, the fat comes from the yolk, egg whites is all protein. So if we're trying to work to a macro target to hit our calories, because we have a certain goal, we need to figure out what we can eat in those macronutrients to equal those calories. So that's a really good way to learn. It's really, it gets easy. It's hard at the beginning, but it gets easy. It's important to understand what food is made up of and what you're actually eating. You might not even be aware that you might find, buy a healthy muesli bar at Woolies and it says low carb, but what you don't understand is that there's very little protein. There's a lot of sweeteners in there, a lot of fake fiber, and really, really high fat, because that's what's going to make us delicious. So yes, make it delicious. So yes, that is a good snack and that's totally fine to have, but you might need to understand that you need more protein to have a whole balanced meal. You might need more protein to feel fuller for longer, so you don't want to eat another muesli bar or another cookie or whatever it may be. So understanding what's in foods by tracking your macros is a really, really good starting point just to learn more about your nutrition. If you have any questions, please let us know. Remember, you don't need to track macros. You can just be aware of what you're eating. You can understand the basics, like in our portion sizes of our food, understand that we need a palm of protein, a fistful of veggies, a handful of carbs, and a thumb of fat. Understand that, base your meals around that, and then see how you go. If you need to dive a little bit deeper into it, you can do that. Macros isn't for everyone. I understand that a lot of people get a little bit caught up with weighing and tracking their food. It's really hard socially to go out. You don't want to weigh your food. You don't know what to eat. So that's why putting aside a certain amount of time to focus on it and really learn is so important. That it's going to make it easier for those social situations when you do go out, when you go out for brekkie or brunch, and long term, when you don't want to track your food or don't need to track your food anymore, you kind of understand where you're at and what you need to make your daily calories up in your macros. Like I said, if you have any questions, please let us know. This is just a learning tool. You don't have to do it. You can if you want. It's totally up to you. If you're the type of person who gets a little bit obsessed or addicted to doing things, it might cause poor habits down the track. So just be aware of that. Maybe talk to a coach and see what's going to work best to help you learn more about food, but also reach your goals. I hope that helped, girls. If you have any questions, please email me or your coaches. And I look forward to seeing you back in the kitchen soon.